Let's talk to our next guest. Maybe you'll have an opinion one way or the other on this. Congressman Ron DeSantis, he's a Republican who represents Florida's 6th congressional district in the U.S. House of Representatives. Congressman, welcome to America's Radio News.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
First off, I'll ask you the question. Do you agree with President Obama's evaluation of Secretary Geithner? And what do you think about the man he has tapped to take his place, Jack Lew?
Well, I'll take Alexander Hamilton if given the choice between Geithner and Hamilton. That's an easy one for me, and I don't think that I think Geithner's made a lot of mistakes. I wish him well in his new career. I'm sure he'll make a lot of money on Wall Street. Jack Lew, to me, he just seems like a political loyalist. I'm not sure that he's demonstrated commanding knowledge of the economy, and I've seen his testimony before the Senate, the Budget Committee, and was not impressed with how he was analyzing their budgets. I didn't think it was honest in terms of saying that basically these Obama budgets in the next couple of years would not be adding to our debt, which to me was just transparently false.
Well, there's already some opposition. Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions came out earlier before the confirmation and said that Jack Lew must never become Treasury Secretary. But do you see Lew having any trouble being confirmed in this Democratic-led Senate?
Well, that's the thing. It seems a lot of his nominees are drawing fire because you look at Hagel. I guess Kerry may be okay, but Brennan, Lew, and I guess the thing is if you're a minority like Republicans are in the Senate, I think there's probably a limit to how many people you can successfully oppose, and so maybe that means that Jack Lew is able to get enough Democratic votes to be confirmed.
Well, you brought up the Senate, Congressman, and that body has been notorious for not doing the most basic, elementary part of what it is you guys are sent to Washington, D.C. to do, which is to manage our money. Harry Reid has been in violation of the 1974 Budget Act going on 4 years now without passing a budget. First off, do you see that changing anytime in the near future? Is there any pressure that you Republicans can bring to bear on him? Because, frankly, your party has not been very good at holding the current administration or the Democrats in the other body to account.
Well, that's true, but something needs to change. When I was driving up to be sworn in on New Year's Eve from Florida with my wife, and 3 days before I'm sworn in, I had no idea what the tax rates would look like when I was sworn in, what the spending levels would look like. I mean, I had a general idea, but they were still dealing with all these things. And it's because they're not passing budgets. They're not really operating like a legislative body should be. And I think that that's bad for the economy and business. It creates uncertainty. But as you said, they're required to pass a budget by law. So to me, that's just wrong. I think if people in the U.S. Just stop meeting their responsibilities, stop doing their job, they would face ramifications, and yet the Senate hasn't, Congress hasn't. So I'm going to co-sponsor this Congress a piece of legislation called No Budget, No Pay, which basically says have the budget resolutions passed, have the appropriations bills passed by the start of the fiscal year, and if you don't, then your pay as a member of Congress will stop until you actually do your job. And if it takes you a month, then you lost a month's pay. No retroactive. Whatever you failed to do is gone. And so I think that we need to have some consequences if we're not doing what the people send us to do.
Congressman, I need to ask you about the Sandy Aid bill. Of course, part of that passed having to do with flood insurance borrowing, but I understand another vote is coming up on that in about a week or so. And you're saying that that this $9.7 billion has already been passed should be offset by spending reductions. What kind of reaction are you getting to that?
Well, I think a lot of people understand where I'm coming from. I think that those folks should have the claims met, so I didn't have an issue with making the expenditure. The only issue for me was should you borrow it or should we look to pare down in other areas? And $9.7 billion in the grand scheme of a $3.7 trillion, and I say budget, but it's not really a budget. It's just a spending plan that the government does. That was something that was very doable. I mean, it wouldn't be difficult at all. So I thought that was the appropriate course to do. But obviously, a lot of times Congress doesn't operate that way. So there were some guys who agreed with me, but a lot of people thought that borrowing was the right way. But I just think we have to start making choices. And if the choice is always just to borrow more, there's going to be a limit to how much we can continue to go like that.
Congressman, Republicans are now the party, along with Democrats, of raising taxes. It's a bipartisan thing that it is unequivocal. It can't be said that Republicans don't believe in raising taxes because they just did. What do you plan to do to at least address that. A lot of folks asking the question, great, you're raising taxes, you're asking the American people to give up something in sacrifice. When does President Obama, the leader of the Senate, when do you guys in government start giving up something? Because right now, it doesn't seem the government's giving up anything.
Well, I think we need to start, with no budget, no pay. That's given up some of our pay and perquisites if we're not doing our job. I think we need to be willing to give up some of the federal largesse that different members like. And so something with like the Sandy offsets, you could have easily trimmed some largesse and done that. And we need to start doing that. But in terms of taxes, I can tell you the president got tax increases. You didn't see any spending cuts in the fiscal cliff deal. He talked about a balanced approach. So because you had a tax increase deal with no spending cuts, now it's time to put taxes off the table and to go focus on reducing spending and getting the fiscal house in order. So I'm going to stand strong on that. I think a lot of my freshman colleagues will as well.
Newly minted Congressman Ron DeSantis.